All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We'd like to welcome the 2017 FedEx Cup champion, 2019 BMW championship winner, Justin Thomas, to the interview room here. Justin, entering the week number 10 in the FedEx Cup. Thoughts on getting started this week?
I'm excited. I played the Palmer Cup here 10-ish years ago. I don't remember the course very well. I remember once I would get to the holes, I would remember the shape of the hole and that part of it, but I did not remember the greens at all. They have a lot of slope. They're very difficult. You need to leave in the right place. You can't short side yourself, kind of thing. And you know, it feels like it's 50 degrees outside compared to last week, so that's obviously very nice. But it's great conditions to where if we continue to get this, they're going to be able to push the course a little bit and maybe get it firm and fast and play very challenging, especially on some of the longer holes. And I feel like my game is getting close. I'm playing a lot better than the scores, and I feel like the results are showing. But you know, that's how golf is sometimes. So I just have to stay patient and hope, you know, get one of these next 2 weeks, preferably the second.
Great. With that, we'll open it up to questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll start with Ryan Lavner right here in the front.
Justin, assuming you're not going to provide us with the meeting minutes, but could you at least describe the tenor of the conversation last night? Yeah,
I mean, I'm not obviously going to talk about very much. I mean, it was a productive meeting. I mean, it's just something that you know, the players who are involved just want the best for the tour and want what's in the best interest. And I think it's just one of those things where we all want what's best for the players, and you know, we're working to do that.
Doug?
Just on a quick follow, what was the value of having Tiger in the room and the effort to get here and all that?
Yeah, that's huge. And I think if someone like him is passionate about it, that's, I mean, no offense to all of us, but that's really all that matters. You know, if he's not behind something, then one, it's probably not a good idea in terms of the betterment of the game, but two, it's just not going to work. I mean, he needs to be behind something, and you know, I think he's been a great kind of leading role in a lot of ways in the game for a lot of us.
Bob, right behind you.
Tiger could have probably joined that meeting via Zoom or conference call or what have you. The fact that he made the effort to come, why do you think he did that, and what do you think the impact was?
I think he came because it was very important to him. It you know, probably was just not something that he felt was appropriate to do over a Zoom or just to call in. And I think it shows how passionate he is about golf and wanting to improve it and paving the way for the next generation of young players to come out, you know, down the road.
Get a mic over to Ben.
I'm just looking for some more recollections of your Palmer Cup time here. The photos and whatnot are very young, Justin Thomas. I mean, I don't know, as much as you can you run through that week?
I remember it raining a lot. Like the course was very wet. It was a tough week in that regard. I mean, we had an unbelievable team. Coach Sewell was our coach, which was really cool. Mr. Palmer, I think that was his last Palmer Cup that he attended, and I mean, greeting him and seeing him on the first tee. I mean, it was at this tournament. I think it was 2013. Talking to him, that I learned, and he told me to, you know, write my signature to make it legible. I mean, it was from this tournament at this golf course, or that tournament at this golf course from him, where I learned that. I mean, it's little things like that and memories like that I'll have. And I mean, I remember my mom and my aunts getting to meet Mr. Palmer and taking a picture with him. I remember I was putting a pretty good whooping on him, but it was a very, very fun week, and you know, I obviously enjoyed those team atmospheres, so it was another one of those.
And just quickly on the course this week that you've been out, I've heard people say it could be like last year, 25, 27 under, and others say it'll be really hard. Where do you fall?
I would say it's quite a bit more challenging than Caves Valley. I think that's, you know, going to be one of the easier tests that we have in terms of huge fairways, soft and short kind of thing. But I think that this place, it's bizarre. It has a very huge mixture of holes. You know, I feel like it has a very, not a good amount, but it has your fair share of if you get the right wind conditions, you can drive it like in front of the green. You can have 30, 40 yards, but that isn't necessarily great. If the pins are in certain places, you can't get it close. And then you have a hole, you know, that I'm hitting driver 4 or driver 5 iron into. So I think you have a big variety of that. And I think if it continues with this weather and it firms up, I mean, these fairways are going to get firm and they're going to start rolling, which obviously the ball is going to go further, but the fairways are going to then be more difficult to hit. So I'm atrocious at guessing the winning score, so I couldn't tell you. I mean, I would just, if I had to, I would say like most tournaments, it'll be in the 12 to 15 range, but I also thought Medina was going to be like 5 under, so just remember that.
Doug?
Do you remember beating Sebastian Kaplan that day?
I remember, I don't specifically remember that match, no, but I guess yes, too.
A couple things. What you talk about a legible autograph signature. Anything else you picked up from Mr. Palmer over the years, whether it was here or I don't think Bay Hill?
My rookie year, yeah, he was at Bay Hill, so I remember walking up 18 green, and I remember him sitting on his cart, and I went over and thanked him, and I mean, he didn't know me from anybody. He had no reason to, but just felt like it was appropriate to go thank someone like him for everything he'd done in the game and was continuing to do at that time, obviously. But I remember talking to him about my grandpa here. I don't know if he was just humoring me or not, but he said he remembered playing my grandpa. I mean, I have an unbelievable picture of him and my grandpa when my grandpa was on tour playing together, and Arnie putting and grandpa in the background with the cigar in his mouth and the bucket hat, and so it just stuff like that. Again, I don't know if he remembered or not, but it made me feel pretty cool at the time as a college player, saying that he remembered playing in, you know, tour events or had heard of Paul Thomas. So you know, little things like that was pretty inspiring and cool to hear.
Secondly, and going back to what you said about the future as you related to the meeting, the future of the tour and whatnot, how hard is it to identify a can't-miss kid coming out of college?
It's extremely difficult, and I just don't think there's such a thing anymore. I think, I mean, you just look at the paths that people take. I mean, I was looking at the Palmer Cup team last week, and I think, and it's absolutely no offense to, and he knows this, to Trey Mullinax whatsoever, but if you were to put Corey Whitsitt, Bobby Wyatt, Trey Mullinax in a hat and say which one of these three in order is going to be the most successful, like you would have said Corey and Bobby ahead of Trey, just because of how good they were. Like, Trey was really good, but they were that good, and they haven't played professional golf in a couple years. Corey and Bobby have, and Trey is now a winner on tour. So they were some of those guys. I mean, Ryan, you know, that it wasn't a how are they going to win on tour? It was how many times are they going to win on tour and how long are they going to play? And I mean, you look at, obviously, Jordan, his path worked out well, but he missed Q school. I mean, there's so many guys I can think of. I don't need to name, you know, I don't need to do that, but it's just guys that you see or can't miss. They're unbelievable. They win everything in junior golf, amateur golf, college golf, #1 amateur in the world, whatever. And they're just struggling to find a way. And I think that's, you could argue that's a little bit of the problem, that they can't necessarily get out here right away. But it's just, man, golf's a tough sport. It's just the way that it is, I think.
You didn't get it here right away either.
I didn't, and I think it was the best thing that happened to me, is having to go through the process I did. It made me earn it. I mean, everybody knows when they sign up for professional golf what they're getting into. They know that you have to go earn what's yours, and if you don't play well, you're not going to get compensated that well. You have to go through Q school to get to that time, and now the Korn Ferry Tour, and you have to play well in a year in the Korn Ferry Tour. And I would have loved to be out on the PGA Tour right away, but I don't think maturity-wise and probably everything else-wise, I just was ready. I think I could have kept my card and I would have been okay, but I don't know if I necessarily would have been the player I am today without going through that and learning more about myself and just putting myself through the ringer kind of thing.
We'll go Bob, then Ryan.
Next year, the format of the playoffs is going to change pretty pretty good amount. Obviously, it's not really been something you've had to worry about, but I'm curious if what impact you think it will have. Only having 70 at the first, this one will only have 50. How do you think it's going to maybe impact schedules or even the thinking of the way you start the year?
For someone like me, I don't know if it's going to change a whole lot, because I generally try to play a couple times in the fall. I mean, my big thing, and it gets me in trouble sometimes, I think it did this summer, is that I feel like if I have a good chance to win on that golf course, I'm going to go play. I feel that I'm young enough, I'm in good enough shape, I can handle it physically enough to where if it's 2-3 in a row, 8 in a 10-week stretch, whatever, then I should be able to handle it. This summer, I think I overdid it a little bit, but my point being is there's some of those events in the fall where I feel I have that opportunity, so I've gone to play those. I don't have a family yet. I'm not in the same position as other people are, to where, you know, I want to enjoy that time off. So I think it could be something where it might entice guys to play a little bit more beforehand or play a little bit more early, so they're not playing catch up at the end. Because that is, I mean, it's getting enough to the point where you can't necessarily have, obviously, one great week of winning a tournament or finishing second, but you can't just have one good week and miss all the other cuts and get in. And I think, that's a good change. I mean, you look at not to compare us to other sports, but there's, other teams miss the playoffs and still get to play next year, kind of thing. So I think it puts a little bit more intensity and emphasis on good, consistent, year-long play, and potentially could make the playoffs more exciting. I don't know.
Right?
Just to piggyback on Doug's point, and I'm not sure how much you've even thought about gaming this out, but do you have any thoughts on what the solution could be? I would think from a PGA Tour perspective, they'd want to have the young, exciting player out on tour as much as possible. The opposite side of that would be you'd like a little bit of seasoning on the Korn Ferry Tour to get game ready as well. Do you have any thoughts on the solution?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it some. I just think it's something where you could just get it. I don't know what the correct answer is, or if it's just something like a small amount of guys that have the opportunity to come straight out here. I think now whether it's through a reshuffle, through 1 year, through 2 years, through 3 reshuffles, that's way beyond my pay grade of knowing how to handle things. But I think some form of that, of the top amateurs in the world or top college players in the world, whatever it is, to have the opportunity to at some point be able to play in these events, in PGA Tour events. I think some form of that is a good answer, but how and when, I don't know. You know what I mean?
We're going to go back row center.
Hey, Justin. Jack Hirsch, golf.com. I just wanted to ask, how different is this golf course compared to the other 2 golf courses on the playoff schedule, being that it's a northeastern golf course with bent grass, very long, deep rough, and you're playing 2 other golf courses that are Bermuda grass? And what are some of the changes you go through when it's so quick?
Yeah, it definitely is a lot different in terms of chipping. I mean, last week you had to pay a lot of attention to the grain and where you were landing it. If the ball was landing into the grain, it was going to pop straight up, or if it was down grain, it was going to take off, versus now it's kind of what you see, what you get with the slope. The rough is quite a bit different to chip out of. I feel like you have to use a little bit different technique, and it's very lie dependent, versus Bermuda is pretty generally just going to sit down. It's just a matter of if it's sitting down in the first cut or if it's sitting down in the long rough. Whereas you can have a lot out here where you may be able to get ball first, you have to do explosion, you kind of chop, whatever it is. So I think you have a little bit of variety and options of how to play shots around the greens versus Bermuda. But it's totally different golf. I mean, it's a lot more position, put the ball in the fairway. I mean, it's still premium here, but it's so important in Memphis and next week, to where if you do that, you can make so many birdies, but if you don't, it's just so hard to control the ball out of Bermuda rough coming into the greens. And I think that's the biggest difference.
And then given the green size here compared to especially Memphis, the green sizes are double, and the length, do you think this course favors long drivers like someone like yourself?
If I drive it well, it definitely favors me, but it long and crooked still doesn't do you any good like it does in most places. But the greens are big, but you can't use a lot of them. I mean, they're so severe and crazy in some spots to where you can't use. I mean, we had a couple holes today looking at it where, like, I don't even think they can use the front half of this green just because of the amount of slope. So it might be one that's like, I don't know, what's the general square footage of a green? Do you have any idea? 8,000. So it might be an 8,000 square foot green, but they can't use 3,000 or 4,000 square feet of it. So it's just one of those things. I think they are big, don't get me wrong, but they play a lot smaller than they are.
Any other questions for Justin? Okay, Doug.
Dougie on fire.
Take a photo. Send you on your merry way. What do you think? One last thing on the meeting. What do you think the outcome is of it? What was not so much the purpose, but what do you hope comes out of it?
I just hope for a better, just a better product. I think that's the hope in general of all of anything, is just to try to improve ourselves, where we're playing, everything the best that we can.
And I've heard that a lot over the last probably the month or so, and without I'm not asking you specific. I'm asking you for a detail, not from the meeting, but in general. What's probably the one thing the tour needs to fix? I'm sure you're relatively happy. You look happy.
Yeah, I am.
What's the one area, and you can generalize if you want, that needs to be improved?
I don't know. I'm probably more on the side of, I enjoy playing and it could be substantially worse and I'm still going to be out here. And yeah, would I hope that things would improve like I do now? Yeah, but it's not. I still just enjoy winning golf tournaments and trying to do that and the competition. I don't, whenever I get in conversations with people, whether they're way into it or not, or just a little into it, it's usually more than I am. So it's more of kind of sit back and listen for me, because I understand that I have a voice from time to time, but I'm on a tour that have a lot of people in it. So I can't be selfish and I can't want what's best for me. I have to want what's best for the tour as a whole. And I think whatever the solution is for that to be, I know that doesn't answer your question, but that's what the answer is.
All right, Justin, thanks so much for your time. Good luck this week.
Thanks.